Vanakkam.
Thank you.
Welcome to Inayathinnai, which is a courtyard in the cloud. This platform was created almost nearly May last year. We are coming up to our first anniversary to help explore and connect to the community during our difficult Corona times. Photography is an art to capture in the lens made with the eye, heart, and the head, living the past to the present and beyond. When traveling was difficult in the past and present in the Corona times, let us explore a realm outside, wanting to be captured through the lens. The best quote I liked about photography was, "You don't take a photograph, you actually make it." We have with us a very accomplished photographer, Christopher Angeloglou. Post your comments and questions at the end, so hopefully he would be able to answer some of them. And the session will be led through with Inayathinnai. Thank you.
Thank you, Gomati. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Angeloglou. Our paths crossed a few years ago, and recently when I was talking to him and I said, look, we have this platform and we would like to have you talk to us about photography and the books he's published, his contribution to the Leica Society. And he was just telling me a few minutes ago that he has now taken the position of the editor of the Leica Society magazine. We were talking about the phones which we have these days and the million photographs which we take in a month in the digital era. However, if you go back a few decades, the world was showcased to everybody by a photographer. People could not travel. People could not go and visit places. So the impression of the people, the culture, the art, everything came from somebody's lens. The photograph tells a lot of stories. And what I've asked Mr. Angeloglou is to showcase some of his pictures over the decades. He's chosen a lovely spectrum of pictures to impart knowledge and wisdom and what goes into making the perfect picture. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for asking me. The build-up you've given me will be a bit hard to live up to, but I will do my best. One thing I haven't done is in the photographs I've selected, I haven't strictly done how I started to where I am now. I haven't done the bit in between. The presentation does start off with two very early photographs because I started photographing seriously in the early 60s. I had left school at the age of 18. I had gone into the army to do my national service, and I'd taken a camera with me. I did actually take quite a lot of photographs while I was in the army, which was very fortunate that I was able to do that, including doing my own wet processing. Now, I don't know if any of you started that early. In other words, did you start with actually developing the film you took out of your camera? That's something that I learned at a very early age. And then how to print, how to make prints. I still think printing is a dark art, and I didn't have the sufficient patience to do it properly. So all my best prints that I have in a room next door, they're prints made for me by a real printer, not me. So I started in film, in black and white, and then my first job was when I joined the Sunday Times as a photographer and as an editor. Right at the beginning, this is 1962, the magazine had only just started. And it was very different in those early years from what it is now. One thing that is interesting is that one of the first cameras I ever bought in 1962, I've still got, and I still use occasionally, but I don't actually do very much film work, but I've still got that camera, and it is a very, very precious one. Apart from that, my cameras were everyday tools. You know, they weren't something to be polished and kept in a drawer and brought out. They were used every day, and when they got worn out or became unreliable, you bought another one, and the early one went away. If one had kept all the early ones, it's like old cars. If you'd kept them all, in 50 years' time, they'd be quite valuable. But we do tend to want to move from one to another, and that's how it goes. Digital came, as far as I was concerned, in the 90s. I got my first Apple computer, my first Apple Mac, in the mid-90s. I've still got half of the casing of it, but it's had all the insides taken out of it and used elsewhere. And the dark room now, or the place where the printing used to be done, is in the computer. And professional photographers now do it all online. Funnily enough, in the Leica Society, there are still quite a few people who are using film, and they have their own dark rooms, and they do their own printing. And I take my hat off to them, really, because it is very hard work. The bulk of the photographs I'm going to show you are in fact from Egypt, and I think some of you will have been to Egypt, and it'll be interesting to see if I'm showing you places that you know. It's always interesting to see photographs of places that one is familiar with, taken by other people, and that is something that I think photographers don't do enough of, because the camera is your real eye when you're photographing, and we all do it slightly differently. Right. Okay. Well, why don't we start the photographs, and I will carry on with the commentary as we go. No, I'm still I'm on the first page.
Yes. So, do you want me to go to the next one?
Yes.
That's a lovely young you in the middle of the picture.
Yes, and I'm holding a Rolleiflex, my father's Rolleiflex.
There you go.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. This is number one. Okay. This is Cambridge in 1962, and in the end of the summer term at Cambridge University, there is a crazy 24 hours of May balls in all the colleges. And this is taken probably in the early hours of the morning. There's dancing through the streets. I don't know whether it still happens like this today, but this is the way it was then. Now, I had been photographing probably since early evening, and this was the middle of the early hours of the morning, and I was exhausted, frankly. but that is one of the best pictures I took. And if I had to pick one picture from this series on the May balls, it will be this one. It's a wide angle lens, and this is black and white, probably HP3 film. And they are coming towards me, and then they're going to go off to one side. And it's an example where, if you are very lucky, everything comes together. I can't claim that I spotted the moment when the man has his foot off the ground, but that's what makes the picture, along with the slightly vacant expression of the lady who's obviously been doing it for too long. It's good. Now, the second picture, in fact, I've got them on my screen here as well, my other screen. Can we go to the second one? Right. I don't know how many of you recognize Cliff Richard. But
some of us do, we're old enough.
Good. But that is Cliff Richard, a young Cliff Richard, who actually is the same age as I am. And this is again 62, so this is film. And this is a wide angle lens. This was the last thing I did for the university newspaper. Myself and a reporter had discovered that that Cliff and the Shadows were going to do some recording at Abbey Road Studios in London. And we just turned up there and said, look, we're from the university newspaper in Cambridge. Can we take some photographs? Oh yes, certainly, come in. No problems at all. No press cards to show and no identity what's-its. And we were the only press there, which was amazing, but maybe not so, because it was before the Beatles. So they were still in Liverpool, and Cliff was really at the beginning of his career. So we sat through a whole day of recordings, and it was Cliff with his group, the Shadows, and their manager was there. A man called Norrie Paramore, who I think is long gone. And they did endless retakes, and then we had a break for tea in the canteen, and then came back and listened, and they listened to the tapes. But in the background of the picture, that is the taping control room, in the set of pictures that I've got, there are probably about 10 series of 10 pictures. There's one shot of Cliff up there sitting with headphones on, listening to the tapes. Anyway, the tapes were okay, no dramas. End of the day, pack up and get to leave. Fortunately, I didn't put my camera away, and we were all going out, and Cliff suddenly picked up Hank Marvin's double bass and did that little jig with it. And if I hadn't caught that, I would have been in the doghouse, because that picture made the whole series. And really, the moral of this for most people is, don't put your camera away too early, because you never know what's going to happen. Keep it in your pocket or keep it on your shoulder, and things happen, and that's marvelous. Right, now we go up to date. Ah. Now, I hope you know the side of my screen where the policeman on the camel is of course covered by my pictures of you. So, so on your screens, you can see the policeman on the camel, can't you?
Yes, we can.
In the bottom right.
We can.
Right, okay. Now, when you go to Cairo, there are obviously two things that you must photograph, and this is one of them, and the Sphinx is the other one. The thing about them is they're so familiar that it's actually quite difficult to find a new angle for them. And really, that is, sometimes you can do it from a personal standpoint, if you're with your family. If you're setting out to actually document the pyramids or the Sphinx, it's much more difficult, because these are some of the most photographed things in the world. And how on earth do you find a new angle? It's luck. Great photography can very often be a question of luck. Now, two things: being in the right place and seeing something happen in front of your eyes and realizing that makes the difference. Now that photograph, it's only the top. It's only the top of one of the pyramids. So I'm quite a long way back. And the policeman on his camel is also some distance from the pyramid. Without him, really there isn't a picture there. And so you really have to, with these familiar landscapes, these familiar places, it is often very difficult to find a new way of recording them. It's a new way of seeing them. And I was lucky that he came along. I didn't put him there, and it has made it. The other thing that I've done is I've taken in the processing of this in the computer, I've taken a lot of the color out of it. It's almost black and white, but it's dark brown and white. And in fact, I find with a lot of the landscape pictures from Egypt, I've increased the yellow in the processing, and which really seems to help. I don't know why. Okay, so if you go to the next one, this is the other great landmark. It is a very large sculpture. I think it's the largest man-made sculpture in Europe. And it is magical, it really is. And again, I've done the same thing. I've taken the color out of it. I've turned it into black and white. And again, I think I was lucky with the further off policeman on his horse, on his camel rather, on his camel. Again, it would not be a different picture without him being there. The next picture is really a bit unfair. The previous shot of the head of the Sphinx is the way we always see it, but we don't know how large it is going out behind the head. Now, okay, I've used a very wide angle lens on here, so I've got some optical distortion, for which I apologize. but it does make the point that it's a very large thing, and it's only recently that it's been uncovered like this. I think it probably happened since the end of the Second World War, that the scale of excavation in Egypt has really gathered pace, and they're doing it extremely well. They're not overdoing it. They're not over cleaning things, and they're not. They're being very sensitive about it, and whoever is in charge of the restoration of all their artifacts is doing a great job. And there is now a marvelous new museum opened, I think, last year. You've been to it?
No, they've just opened it this year.
Yes, it is.
It was supposed to be opened last year, but got deferred, and with the pandemic, it was postponed.
Yeah,
they've just opened it a few weeks ago with a beautiful procession of all the artifacts from the old museum transferred to the new one.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's good. So I must have a visit there soon. Really nice. Okay, now we go back to the next one. We go back to the pyramids, and again the problem of how to make your viewpoint different. And this is one way of doing it. By putting the figure there, or finding the figure was there, you immediately introduce the idea of scale, and it is awe-inspiring. Now the next picture, if you'd like to go to the next one, those blocks are actually quite large. In the previous picture, because it's full detail, you don't get the impression how large those blocks are, but you can see how big they are. Now I've seen various explanations about how the ancient Egyptian engineers did their heavy lifting, but you know, it is quite awe-inspiring when you think about it. Now, okay, we've got the tourist police on their camels, and we've got the souvenir sellers waiting for the public to come in. I'm not sure how I got in before them, but I did. And again, it gives you an alternative view of the pyramid. Okay, next. I hadn't realized that there were houses and people's homes so close to the pyramids until I was being driven from one part to another, and suddenly looked up through the windscreen and saw this. Again, it's something the Egyptians just take for granted. It's always been there, no fuss, every day. But again, this is a view that tourists don't normally come across, as is the next one. This is rush hour on the ring road, and again, one doesn't realize that Cairo has expanded so much that it's almost it's the pyramids can be right outside your hotel bedroom, which is something to wake up for. Okay, now the next one. And did you know that there is a little hotel? There's a little hotel very close to the pyramids. I think it's called the Mina Palace. We went there for morning coffee, and we were sitting in the dining room, right up close to a window, a blind, and beyond that, while we're having our coffee, is the pyramid. Okay. All right, and that's my nephew playing golf. There's this small, perfect little golf course right under the pyramids, and you know, this is something that it's so easy to miss. And again, if you're looking for a different angle on a very familiar place, finding something like this, you know, really helps. Okay, right now. In the next picture, we have gone to Luxor. Now, Luxor is about, 250, 300 miles inland from the Mediterranean. And this is the backbone. The Nile is the backbone of Egypt. And there's this narrow strip of very fertile land on either side of the Nile, and then it's not too long before you're out in desert in both directions. Now, photographing the Nile is actually very, very difficult. It's a very large river, which makes it much more difficult than if it was a small river the size of the Thames. The Nile at Luxor is certainly very large, and you've got to do it from a boat, and you've got to be able to control the position of the boat vis-a-vis any other craft that happen to be on the water. You've got to get your lighting right. You've got to get the camera in the right position, and it can be very difficult. In my 5 visits to Luxor, this is the best picture I've taken, and it's again I've taken the color, most of the color out. You can see there's green still in the sugar cane in the boat nearest us, and there's a little bit of color still coming through on the far bank. But again, I wanted to remove the color. If you take it too far, it becomes black and white. Black and white is tremendous, but in this case, it would have lost the atmosphere. Because there's a little bit of color left, you've got almost an impression of the heat. It's worked, but you know, one thinks that, oh right, we'll get in a boat and we'll go up and down, but it's very difficult, and I'm pleased. I'm very pleased with that picture, so it's good. Right, now the next one. This I know is familiar to at least one of you. This is Queen Hatshepsut's mortuary palace, and it is an amazing sight. Best seen actually from a balloon, but you really need to be there early in the morning, and I don't think the public can get into this site. I think it's probably before 8 o'clock in the morning. So the other really good time to see it is late afternoon, early evening. I think this is afternoon, here this is not an architectural record. of the palace, but it is a record of the way people use it and enjoy it. I could see this party of children coming off the ramp at the back, that formidable staircase, which is quite exhausting to walk up and down. I just let them come towards me. Okay, they knew they were being photographed, some of them, but they didn't really take any notice at all, and that's what makes that picture work. Arguably, if I had been, let's say, 5 feet higher up, I would have got a better record of the colonnades at the front, but I wasn't that tall. Again, you know, this is an example of the camera just being unnoticed, and it works. And okay, I'm not one of these people who has their digital camera switched to continuous shooting, because, you know, if you do that, except in certain circumstances, you are abdicating the crucial judgment of when to take the picture. And looking back through my files, this particular picture, I think I took 3 or 4 frames. That was all, and one of them was right. If you have digital cameras, I presume that you have ones. You have ones with zoom lenses. Before we had zoom lenses, this life was very difficult, because you had to take one lens off and put another one on, and it was a dodgy time. Zoom lenses, although they're heavy and quite bulky, are really brilliant, because you can stand in one place and just, well, you know this. I don't think we've got zoom lenses on the phones yet, have we? No.
I don't think we do.
No.
They have some digital zoom and up to 5x.
Yeah, yeah. Right, okay. Next one, please. Karnak, another. No, it is the largest religious site in Luxor. It is huge, and it got so big because each pharaoh, when he came along, wanted to outdo his predecessor in the magnificence of his buildings, so they just kept on. Now, I'm not sure where this is. This is inside the first pylon, and you can see that wall has been restored, and this is what I mean by the fact that the Egyptians are doing the restoration, I think, quite sensitively. And I think that works. I'm not so sure about the electricity trunking coming down on the right-hand side of the picture, but that's I think we have to allow them that one. But Karnak, you need a whole day, if not more. Because it is very large. There are usually some very well qualified guides, and I discovered that at least 2 of them were that I talked to were academics, moonlighting from their university. So, you know, if you got a good one, you could learn an awful lot. If you got one who wasn't so good, you actually made your excuses and went elsewhere. But you know, a good guide is a great help, especially if you're trying to take photographs. They actually know all the best viewpoints, and you know, you don't have to use them all. But I was certainly grateful for one in Luxor, probably in this temple. Right. Okay. Next, please. Now, the great hypostyle hall. Very difficult to photograph. It's very unusual to find it so empty like this. Mind you, in the years that I've been going to Luxor, the tourists haven't been enough tourists at all, and which is bad for Egypt, but it's good for photography. And here again, you need a very wide angle lens. And I think I probably got the camera right down on the floor, or quite close to the floor. And then I corrected the vertical distortion afterwards. And again, I mean, the light is difficult because you can see where that highlight on the top of the pillar is. You've lost certain amount of detail in order to open up the detail in the shadows down the bottom. I mean, before digital, that picture would have been impossible to take like that. So, you know, we do have an awful lot to be grateful for. Right, okay. Thank you. Now that's young Tutankhamun, and he's in this is the courtyard past the second pylon, I think. Maybe yes it is. In Karnak. Now you notice here the light is completely different. Compared to the light in the last picture, this is because this is a very late evening, and we are in fact in shadow. Now I might have adjusted the color very slightly, but it's a marvelous time of day to photograph. And of course it's empty, which is nice. But this is a very sad, defaced likeness of the young Tut, it's a very special place, I think, that. Again, not a difficult photograph to take, but you've got to watch what's happening in the background. And you've got to try various positions. And again, the zoom lenses are so helpful. Really are, because you can stand in one place and alter the frame. It's good, very good. Okay, so that's Karnak. Right, what's the next one? Another favorite place of mine. This is in Luxor Temple. Now, Luxor Temple is right in the middle of the town. It's got a road going right round it, and it's got the river. It's the river just the other side of the road, and it's quite small, and it does have a mosque, the El Haggag Mosque, built into it, which is amazing. The mosque is way up to the left of the picture, but this man, I think I've probably photographed him certainly twice, and he's always doing the same job. I mean, it's lovely, really nice that. And again, I've taken almost all the color out of it, or maybe it is complete black and white with a tint put back into it. I think that's it. From a strictly photographic point of view, if he hadn't been there, it would not have been as strong an image as it is. It would have been okay, but it wouldn't have had the magic that I think it has. And I think it's greatly helped by having the colour taken out of it. And again, I like the way those statues have not been over restored. You know, they're sad, but you know, it's the way the Egyptians want it, and I think it's right. The thing about Luxor Temple is, because it's quite small, it is not an exhausting 2 hours you spend there. Whereas Karnak, which is a couple of miles down the road, Karnak is so large, you have to go there more than once, or else have a great constitution. And just outside this temple is the main square, large open space where people gather in the early evenings, and there are benches, and it's great for socializing and eating popcorn and so on, with some shops, some very useful shops, and a couple of restaurants there. But you are right in the middle of the city, which is so great. Okay. Right. Oh, this again is in the same temple, and not far away from that previous picture. And again, from a photography point of view, you have the problem about the extremes of light. The full sunshine outside, which I've toned down, and the immediate statues being in full shadow, and the contrast is quite clear, and I think very useful. And again, obviously, I have adjusted the colour in, I hope, a sensitive way, because one really has to be awfully careful about adjusting the colour reality as one see it, as we see it when we take the picture. It can look very different when you get it out of the camera. Okay, can we have the next one, please? Now, this temple, called Medinet Habu, is in a little village on the right bank that's away from the city of Luxor, towards the Valley of the Kings. And I think this was probably the last time I was there. I'd never seen it from above. I'd always seen it from below, and it's a marvelous temple. It has some great feeling to it. But each year I've been there, I've done the balloon flights, and it is a magical way to see Egypt. It's a magical thing to do anyway. It's like gliding and scuba diving. It's absolutely silent, and a bit it's a bit you are totally out of control. You cannot control it. You can't control anything. Is it dangerous? Well, there have been some upsets, incidents in Egypt, but I think that was some time ago, and they've tightened up on their safety legislation. I've always felt perfectly at ease. I mean, I knew the people who ran the company that I was flying with, it's just a magical experience. One tip: if you're trying to photograph, you need to get into one of the sections of the basket at the corner. And you need to make sure that the sections close to you are not full of huge great people, because you need to be able to turn the camera around. It's always done very early in the morning, and you're back on dry land, as it were, by 8 o'clock in the morning. So I was in a balloon that size, but much higher up, and so on. The one of the last landings I did in the balloon, we were coming down into what was a cornfield that had been cut recently, and I honestly did not feel the moment the basket touched the ground. It was done so skillfully. It was amazing. Right, okay. So, if one goes to Egypt, don't be nervous about balloons. It's a great experience. Right, thank you. Aha. Now, I mentioned guides before. Well, this was this was a very insistent guide, and on this trip, I was accompanied by a couple of other photographers, and I let them listen to his lecture, and I stepped back a little bit in order to get this picture. Now, this is Abu Simbel. The mortuary tomb of Ramses II, and next to it, this one, which is the tomb of his queen. This is the only tomb in Egypt given over to a queen as opposed to a pharaoh. sorry, as opposed to a female pharaoh. It's worth the trip. You leave Aswan at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and you get here at about 8. You have about 3 or 4 hours here, and then the convoy, because you're in convoy with escort back and front, and you're back in Aswan by lunchtime. It's photographically, it's probably better if one could stay there for the whole day, but that wasn't possible while I was there. Now, when you look at the next slide, you're looking at Ramses II's own temple. That's it. Right. Okay. Altogether, a different scale of self-glorification. He has 4 statues of himself. Okay, I have increased the drama by getting the camera as low as I could, and to include that incredible sky. I was so lucky. And then again, black and white is stronger than in color. In one of my books, it's a full page in color, but I think it's better to turn it into black and white like this. It is a stunner, really. And the next one, if you go to the next one, that is the key to the door to the temple we've just been looking at. And that's a sort of detail that it's quite easy to miss. But it's the sort of detail, if one's trying to put together, let's say, a series of 4 or 5 pictures on one particular place like this, and it's easy to do this. This is the sort of photograph that complements, both in scale and information, the overall picture of the front that we've just been looking at. It's again the quality that one gets from our digital cameras is actually quite amazing. I mean, you know, you can feel that wood grey. Oh, right. Okay. Right. Okay, next one. Now, these remaining pictures are all photographs of people, because in somewhere like Egypt, people are really what it's about as much as the temples. And photographing people, some people actually find it rather difficult, because the camera can be intrusive, and sometimes people don't want to be photographed. And as a photographer, I think one's got to be sensitive to this. The way that I've always got round it is, if someone indicates to me they don't want to be photographed, all right, well then I put the camera down and say fine, and move on. As someone who's taking photographs all the time, you get used to being a bit inconspicuous. Things like not having 3 cameras hung around your neck, advertising the fact that, right, this person's going to take photographs. behaving in such a way that you don't draw attention to yourself. And it seems to work. Now, in this particular case, I've mentioned eye contact before. She has seen me and she's looking at the camera, okay? Nothing to indicate that she didn't want to be photographed. But without cowboy in the background, it would be an okay photograph, but it wouldn't be as good as it is, because he happened to walk in there. And I had the sense to take the picture at the right time. Only one frame, only one frame. You know, I think that one works. Okay, next one. Right. These are the smart boys from Cairo. It's you know, down for the day. In many ways, I feel I've probably over cropped. Now, by cropping, I mean I have departed from the traditional 35mm frame shape, and I made this square because I wanted to concentrate the eye on the eyes. And again, the boy on the right with the red shoulder, he's not looking at me. He's looking at one of his mates. The boy in the pinstripe in front of me, I'm not quite sure where he's looking. He might be looking at me, I don't know. And the one in the middle certainly isn't. But really, that picture is a bit of a study in early teenage fashion. I mean, I think it's really nice. And the eye on the boy from the right with the red shoulder is that really makes the picture. It really does. And I don't think they were even aware I was photographing them. They certainly didn't mind. Whereas the gentleman in the next picture, he really wanted to be photographed. You know, he said, you know, come and snap me. And again, that makes the picture. Absolutely makes the picture. He's staring straight at me. And these are local boys. You know, they're not as smart. They're the locals out for the day. And what a place to have to come to in your day out. And you know, with a picture like that, I think we exchanged a few words afterwards, after I'd taken it, but I only took one picture. I felt that's all that was necessary, and the situation changed after I'd taken the picture. You know, they probably moved on anyway, and so on. But that's made by the boy's attitude. Okay. This is in the market. This is in the market in Luxor. They do carry these most amazing things on their heads, and I don't know how they balance them. And I'd been on the lookout for this sort of situation in previous visits. I've never found it. I saw this lady. I was in the wrong place, so I had to move to get into the right place. And I only got one frame before she moved and out of my frame. But you know, one frame is all it needs. It's quite an unusual picture, and it works. And this would have been a zoom lens, because I couldn't move myself enough, and it would have been quite a long lens. But it's fine. Great. I'm very happy with that. But difficult to do. You know, first you've got to see it, and then you've got to make sure you're in the right position. And in all this you've not got to be distracted by worrying about the technicalities of the camera. You know, this is one of the great this is one of the great advantages of digital, because the exposure and the focusing can be made automatic. That should leave us free to make quite sure that we're taking the picture at the right moment. Really got to concentrate on what's happening in that frame. This is one reason why I try and deter photographers from trying to take photographs from the little screen on the back of the camera. That's not the way to do it, I'm afraid. The way to do it is you've got to get the viewfinder right up to your eye, so it excludes everything else. So there are fewer distractions. Before digital, of course, when you looked through the viewfinder on the top of the camera, there was no gubbins in there, you know, no exposure details and so on to distract you. And I find that I switch all those things off on my digital camera. So there's nothing inside there except the very, very basic information down the bottom of the viewfinder. Otherwise, you know, you can lose pictures. Right, so that's that lady. Okay. Right, the next one. This is one of the ladies of the house where I stay. This is the owner's daughter-in-law. That's it. She is the wife of the eldest son of the family, and this family has been involved in looking after tourists for, you know, since the 80s, so that they have this large house on the West Bank, which is broken up into, which is split up into flatlets, and you eat, or if you want to, you eat with the family. Never had such marvelous food, really, really marvelous. And this lady is doing the baking in the morning. And the other thing actually about photographing in Egypt is I've never had any problems with being told you can't photograph women. I understand that Morocco is very difficult for photography with people, but Egypt is actually fine. Right, thank you. Now this is the Al Hagag Mosque. Now, it's a very welcoming place, and on the various times I've been there, I've introduced myself to one of the officials, and said, look, I want to take photographs. Is that all right? And they say, oh, yes, yeah, that's all right. You get asked for a donation. So I give them a donation. And then I get a guided tour, little guided tour, as much as I want. And then they say, well, look, go wherever you like. This is just inside the main door, in fact. And as you see, it's quite a family atmosphere. And the structure on the right-hand side, that is the Holy of Holies. I think that's the shrine to Mr. what's his name, Mr. Hagag. Yeah. And again, this picture would be nothing without the scholar sitting on the floor reading his holy books. I mean, okay, it would be an okay picture of a mother and daughter, and you can see the expression on the mother's face, looking at and the daughter, whatever she's looking at, is thrilled by something she's seen, and that in itself is a really magical moment. But then to have that figure in the background really sets it above. It really does. Now this is an example where black and white. I haven't tried this in black and white, but it's an example where I think it would lose. It would lose because you need the information that the colour has on the side of the shrine, and the colour in the clothes and the carpet on the floor, that it all adds atmosphere. I might try it in black and white, but I don't think it will be so good. Right? There is a Coptic monastery outside Luxor. It's been there for many, many years, and it's right on the edge of the town. So much so that beyond it is desert, and beyond it is desert. Again, it's on Sundays. It's absolutely full of families, and this is one of the monks. I have photographed him on more than one occasion, and I've got an arrangement with the abbot to do a formal photograph of him next time I go there. Well, that was 2 years ago, but I do hope to go back there, and I wonder if this man will still be there. But and again, this needs colour, I think, especially with the wall paintings on the background. It's really nice. Right, right, we're almost at the end. Now, the next one, I don't think she knew I was photographing. I don't think she's looking at me, because I think if she was, I think her expression would have changed. Only one frame was possible. I'm not sure why, but I didn't take any more. Two slight mistakes. One is it's too tight at the top. It would have been nice to have that rim of her head clear of the edge of the frame. And similarly, the border on the right-hand side is cutting into that second headlamp on the motorbike. Now, why is that important? it's come to me recently that it's important because we've got two eyes, and we've got two eyes on the headlamps. I didn't realize it at the time because I was concentrating on her. Now this was quite a long lens. This was probably a long zoom lens, it's not a bad picture. Not a bad picture. Right, the next one is totally different. Now there's a camel market on the road to Aswan that I had been meaning to get to since I first went there. Always missed it, always the wrong day, or no, we can't do it. But it was a 3 or 4 hour drive in the early morning from Luxor down towards Aswan. And in this really nondescript town, on the edge of town, there was this large area full of camels. And it was, I was there for 2 hours only, 2 hours only. And I've got enough photographs for a whole book. Well, quite a small book, and again, they're better in black and white than in color. Interesting thing is that the hierarchy in this picture, the taller man on the right is the owner, and he's just bought those 4 camels. The man holding the reins, as it were, is his drover, and he knew he was being photographed, and he's pleased. He's pleased with his purchases, I think. But that was a very good day, and that's a good moment, and it's better in black and white than in color. And thank you very much. So that's enough from me.
That was just amazing. So you've actually given us a buy one, get one free. So you've taken us through lots of pictures on the techniques and do's and don'ts of good photography, as well as given us a mini tour of Egypt and motivated people who haven't gone there to go there.
Absolutely. Do go there. Do go there. It's tremendous.
I'm sure there'll be lots of questions, but can I kick off? I mean, at the outset, thank you.
No.
And you are the wisest and the oldest guest on this platform. The youngest is a 16-year-old kid talking to us about computers and
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
So we had the spectrum
right.
from various walks. Of all these pictures,
yeah,
where would you use a tripod, and where is it freestanding in the moment I need to take it?
I don't have a tripod with me when I'm traveling. I have a tripod, but I don't. I very seldom use it. Partly, okay, there's a bit of laziness, and the other thing is that again with digital, we are now getting anti-shake software in both the lenses and the cameras. So you can now hold half a second if you're very clever. Pre-digital, you know, you wouldn't go any slower than a 25th of a second. But now you can, and actually it has opened up a rather intriguing backwater, in that if you have a long exposure and people are moving around and doing things and talking and so on, it does very strange things to their appearances. I mean, I photographed a musician, a guitarist playing, and he was really moving around, throwing himself around. When I looked at the pictures afterwards, it had elongated his head in the most amazing way. It's so tripod. No, I have a very expensive tripod. I don't use it very often. and you know, you don't need to, unless you're doing if you're doing, you know, your moonshot and stuff at night. Yes, okay, I understand it. But I don't do that.
Chappie who's asked, what camera and lens were used for this pyramid? And generally for landscapes, what lens do you use?
Well, I have to say that for landscapes generally, a mid-range zoom lens is extremely useful. On the other hand, for a lot of landscapes, a very wide-angle lens can add an awful lot of drama. So I would say it's a difficult one to answer, but I would think try a wide-angle lens, but then do try a zoom. But don't feel that absolves you from having to move yourself around. That's the trouble with zoom lens. It makes us lazy.
Thank you, sir. That was very interesting. Especially when we are tied to our homes in the pandemic, you took us the full tour of Cairo and Egypt. I have one question. How do you see the influence of post-processing in today's modern photography?
Well, I do it. It is easy to abuse it. I don't agree with moving people out of pictures or you know, changing the color of their hair or so on. That's but I do quite a lot of post-processing. It's principally to control the color. And all the black and white conversions are done with a special software, which is also quite tricky to use. So I think it's post-processing. Really, it's what we used to do in the darkroom. So it's been with us for a long time. I mean, the Victorians were very clever at it, especially the landscape photographers. So it isn't something that's new, but it can be abused, and I certainly would not have anything to do with altering the geometry of a composition. I wouldn't move something around. You know. Cropping is slightly different, because you're taking a second look at something where the first look was in the camera, and actually maybe I didn't get it right. I wasn't in the right position entirely. So all right, I can improve the picture by altering the borders. There are many purists who say that is heresy, but I've worked in photography long enough to know that it's okay. It's okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So we have a technical question going back to your lens. If it is mid-range wide angle,
yes.
Is it a 50mm or a 250mm?
Ah, right. Wide angle, in my terms, is say from 28 millimeters to 50. 50 is what was always referred to as the normal lens. 90 was what was always referred to as a portrait lens, because you would use it to frame a person without getting too close. Because if you move the camera too close to someone whose face you're photographing, you get distortion. You get distortion of the features. So that is why you use a slightly longer lens, and which means that the camera, can stay further back. Now, anything longer than 200, that's telephoto. That's quite specialist. It's people photographing birds and wildlife and so on must have fast, long lenses, and they get very, very expensive. My favorite focal length, if one can say there is such a thing, is 35 millimeter, which is, let's say, it's the first wide angle. If 50 is the normal view that one sees, 35, it's a bit wider. You can go right up to 21. No, you can go right up to 10 millimeters, which can almost take in everything. But the distortion becomes really not very interesting. And with extreme wide angle lens, you've really got to know what you're doing, because it takes in so much of the area in front of you. The detail is lost because people are too small. So so for me 35 is the lens, but I do use wider ones. It depends very much what you're photographing. If you're photographing a fast-moving situation that you're very close to, well, then you want your wide angle, you want your 28. That is why the zoom lenses are so good, but they're bulky, they're much bigger, and they're heavier, and they're expensive.
What modern day software is being used now? Like what modern day software he uses?
You mean what do I use?
Yes.
Well, I use Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop. There are 2 or 3 other really good ones on the market. The trouble is, it takes a long time to learn how to use it properly. It is complicated. And, I mean, I've been using Photoshop now for what, 30, 40 years. I wouldn't want to start from scratch with an alternative. So I use Photoshop for that. For my black and white conversions, I use something called Silver FX Pro. It's made by a French company called DxO, Silver FX Pro, which is, again, it's a fairly steep learning curve, but I think the results are really good. Now, what is also coming onto the market now is, I think there's only one company that produces them, is digital cameras that only produce black and white.
Oh.
View in black and white, and the file that comes out of the end is black and white. Now, why is that better than doing it with software? it's something I'm exploring actively, but technically there are certain filters that are not necessary if you're only capturing the black and white tones, which means that the camera can capture more detail in the shadows, and it makes it better if you're photographing in bad light. And the results I've seen from colleagues who I know, there's something really interesting about the black and white print from a monochrome camera. So with me the jury is out a little bit, but maybe by the time I see you next, I will have bought this camera. They're made by Leica. They're the only people producing these monochrome cameras at the moment, and I'm sure that the others will come along, because if you like black and white, the results are really very interesting.
Thank you. DxO is really good, but expensive at the moment. The full package is about £290.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Mr. Angeloglou, for your presentation. Your photos are really good. I had 3 questions actually.
Right.
The first one was when you go traveling for photography, which lenses do you normally carry?
Right. I carry a short zoom, then a prime round about 40 millimeters or 50. A long zoom to take me up to about 200, and maybe an 85 or a 90.
Okay.
But okay, that's 4 lenses. If you want to cut it down, I very often I've got one camera that has a fixed 28 millimeter, and then I would have a second one that would have a zoom taking me from about 70 to 200.
Okay. Okay.
And that's 2 cameras. I mean, the important thing is that we don't want to get too obsessed by the equipment, because by all means, I think one should buy the best quality that one can afford, certainly in the lenses.
Okay.
But the deciding factor is the eye.
Okay.
The eye and judging when to take the picture.
Good. Okay. Thank you. My second question was, do you use any lens filters, or you do that in post?
Yes, increasingly, I do it in post-processing. Although I do always use a UV on the front of an expensive lens.
Oh, okay.
Because you can just wipe any stuff off it with your hand or a handkerchief. And if one is investing, serious money in the glass bits that go on the front of the camera, they need to be taken care of. There is another filter that is useful, and that's a neutral density filter. I actually haven't used one very much, but if with present digital cameras, you can raise the ISO level up so high that you can really operate in extreme light and control the ISO. And a neutral density filter, I understand, I haven't done it, is essential for doing that. Otherwise, I can get the effects of the various color filters in my in the computer.
Oh, okay. It's interesting about lens filters. I myself have got a couple of neutral density filters, and I've read that they're quite good if you're taking prolonged exposure photography. I don't know, do you take much prolonged exposure photos?
No, 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 I don't. It's no. You know, there are some things when you get to my advanced age that it's you know, it's almost too late to embark on another technical hurdle. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you know what I'm saying.
Okay. Then my last question was regarding light modifiers. So if you're out in the environment, do you use any kind of like portable light modifiers, or you just use lens and okay, fine?
No. The answer there, there's such a thing as encumbering yourself with too much technical equipment.
Yeah.
And the quality of modern digital cameras is really so good now. I mean, what make do you favor?
Personally, I use a Sony Alpha 7.
Absolutely. Well, I think the Sony cameras are absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I haven't used one myself, but my nephew, who's an architect, he uses one, and I know many professionals who absolutely rate them highly, really high. Whereas I think that maybe Canon and Nikon are losing the plot.
Yeah, I think especially in the mirrorless cameras, I think Sony's by far like way ahead of the rest of them. So,
well, my mirrorless camera is Panasonic.
Oh, okay.
And I've got three identical bodies because I've been using them for so long. I need a spare. And the Panasonic lenses are brilliant. And there's a range of lenses that have come out from the collaboration between Leica and Panasonic, and they're not that expensive, and they're really good. So yes, no, I do hear great things about Sony. I'm sure you're on the right lines there.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not encumbering with questions, but one last question.
Yeah.
I do find sometimes when you're editing a photo, that sometimes how a photo appears, for example, if you're using like a big monitor versus a laptop, and how the photo appears when, you know, most people see it on like a camera phone, will differ slightly in terms of light balance and the color, hue, and temperature.
Yes.
How do you account for that?
You mean how do I avoid it?
Yeah.
Well, mine goes straight to an iMac.
Okay.
And the 27-inch monitor. I do have, and I've actually never had a laptop, but again, I was looking at someone's MacBook Pro, and that was really extremely good. Really, you know, I wasn't conscious of a difference.
Oh, okay, okay. And I do find that the biggest difference is, for example, when you're transferring it, for example, like an iMac to an iPhone, for example, or another kind of handset. I do find there's quite a bit of variation in terms of the exposure and sometimes the color temperature, which I think has to do with the displays of the handsets.
No, I think it does. I think it does. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well,
no, avoid it. Avoid it if you can.
Okay.
Firstly, I'd like to say thank you so much for delivering this talk. It's been immensely interesting. Personally, I find photography, to be quite an avid hobby of mine.
Are you?
So, listening to you drop all this wisdom and show us your amazing work has been quite enriching. But as someone who'd like to further my skills, what would you say is the biggest mistake a lot of rookie photographers make?
Two things, I think. Don't get obsessed by having the latest equipment. Don't let your equipment distract you from using your eyes. The most important thing about photography is seeing the picture and then taking it at the right moment. And no amount of technical stuff can really replace doing that. So, you know, get equipment that doesn't break the bank. Don't let it get in the way of taking photographs. And no, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. You know, don't get obsessed, but you don't have to have you know, the latest model.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find one manufacturer's gear that really works for you, stay with it.
Mm.
Stay with it. Don't chop and change all the time. You know, every time the wind changes, you don't have to buy another what's it.
Mm.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And look, if you ever need any advice, you can email me.
I would honestly love to do that.
Good. Feel free.
Thank you. That is very kind. I know I said the last question, but I have one more.
Yes.
TR.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for your time, taking your time to talk to us. The photographs are brilliant, and your passion shows in all the photographs that you show us. In your 60 years of amazing career, I'm going to split it 30 years in film and 30 in digital, just for the sake of argument.
Yes.
And I do see that you appreciate digital coming from the old school, and you use post-processing in the best way. I think I don't see you're overdoing it. I see you're changing color temperatures, you're changing lights and shadows to bring out everything. And I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you can show your creativity much more with post-processing that's available in the digital camera or post-processing. had you had that in the first 30 years, what would you have done to the most favorite pictures of yours? Let's say the Cliff Richard picture you showed us. If you had had a digital camera and Adobe Photoshop in 1962, would that have come out different?
Technically, it might have come out different, but I wouldn't have wanted to have produced a different picture, if you follow me. I would have taken it, I would take it in exactly the same way, you know, which is why I still actually find myself thinking very much in terms of that first real camera I had. And I've still got it, and it's a difficult one. That Cliff Richard picture, it would no doubt have been. You see, I forget what film that I was using. I think it was HP3, which is a 400 ASA ISO film. It could probably have been processed differently now, but that's a very challenging question, actually. Thank you. And I'm not sure I've answered it properly, but I don't think I'd do very much.
I think it's
no. I was just curious because I started off with a film at the late, you know, towards the end of film cameras, and then I switched to digital as well. So I always have this film versus digital question. So that's why the question, you know. So from what I hear, your composition wouldn't have changed, but the picture wouldn't have been exactly the same had you taken with the digital and processed it later.
The quality would have been better, but I have a digital print made from a very high resolution scan of that picture, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Probably have to wrap it up. I did tell
Mr.
Angeloglou we'll have him for an hour, but
that's all right.
An hour and a half. I was listening to somebody yesterday saying, can you actually compare legends of different time frames? And this was in a racing standard. Can you compare Sir Jackie Stewart with Lewis Hamilton? You can't, because the machinery is different, the gadgets are different.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
My
I think
pleasure.
before I hand over to Gomati, I think you've showed us a lot of pictures. There's a question which they've asked. Is there one particular picture which is your most favorite picture? Trawling through all of your pictures, is there anything which is the one which you say, look, that was the most best picture I'm proud of?
No, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. And especially as right now, I'm in the middle of editing pictures that re-editing pictures that I took 15, 20 years ago. And I'm going through them, and occasionally I find one, and I'm throwing an awful lot away. So I'm doing what I'm urging you to do, which is to get your pictures off the phone into the computer, and then go through them and dispose of the ones that are obviously not working.
So before I hand over to Gomati, there's one picture which I want everybody to think in this pandemic, which is your aerial picture with the balloon. I had the privilege of listening to the gentleman who circumnavigated the globe in a balloon.
Yes.
And he said, in a balloon, and you alluded to it when you spoke about the picture, you're at the mercy of nature. It's the winds which take you. The only thing you can control is the altitude. You can go up and down, but where you go, we have no control. And that's the state we are in now with the pandemic. We cannot control where it goes, but we can be safe in altering the altitude by social distancing, keeping ourselves safe, and protecting us and the others. Over to you, Gomati.
Thank you, Christopher Angeloglou, for a wonderful hour and a half. And I think that was quite enthralling for everybody. You have definitely proved photographs are a return ticket to the moment that is otherwise gone. Thank you for booking us into that moment that is never going to go away now. Thank you for your valuable time spent with us. And I hope everybody has a pleasant evening and hope you all stay safe and stay home. We will meet up with another new fabulous program again in a few weeks' time. Until then, take care. And signing off from the Inayathinnai team, take care. Bye-bye. Vanakkam.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.